Okay, today's video is going to be about Nanima. If you don't know who that is, that's my grandmother, and Nanima isn't actually her name. It just means mother's mother in Punjabi. And since she had 4 daughters and 10 grandchildren, everyone just calls her that. To say Nanima is an important person in my family would be an understatement. She's lived this crazy, incredible life. She's lived through insane events like the partition of India and Pakistan. She had an arranged marriage. She moved to the United States with 4 daughters. She basically built up all of her family wealth and success from nothing in the United States. And now, because of all of her sacrifices and choices and values and decisions over the years, all of her children and grandchildren are well off for the most part. She's been sort of this cornerstone, this foundation that my whole mom's side of the family has been built on. Part of this was also inspired by a series of talks that she was invited to a couple of years back, basically interviewing a bunch of survivors from the India-Pakistan partition, sharing their stories about what they experienced firsthand. A saying that I really like is that when an elder passes away, a library burns to the ground. And even though Nanima seems to be in great health and hopefully she has many years ahead of her, I wanted to make this video to kind of show my appreciation for her as a person, try to show her how much she means to me, and show the kind of influence that she's had on my life and my choices and my decisions. And even though I don't really think it's possible to summarize a person's entire life in a single video, I'm gonna try to condense what I've learned from her into basically 3 big points. And those are a connection to the past, a connection to the earth, and a connection to the family.
These were all the important people of the Punjab. Grandfather's father is represented, and my mother's father is represented in the picture. Captain Sher Singh, and your little brother Nika is named Nika Sher.
So is that as far back as we go, like as far as pictures?
As far as I can go, but I believe Captain Sher Singh's family used to be horse traders with Afghanistan.
So that's your grandfather?
Yes, my grandfather. They were adventurers like you. Like you wanted to go all over the world and get into a ship and run to Australia, see other things. And then these three are sisters. That means her daughters. Again, from this picture, you can tell that the family was prominent enough or important enough for the Britishers to come to their house.
Nanima helps me be connected to my past through her photos. When I was a baby, our house burnt down and a lot of old photos and things were just destroyed. And now those are gone forever. There were no backups. It was only whatever physical copies we had. And the same thing applies to a lot of the photos that Nanima has. We actually went through and I recorded who all the different ancestors were, their relationships to us. She actually remembers all those things. Besides her, I don't know who else has that information. I think it would have been an incredible thing to have video of all those people that she's describing in her photos. Unfortunately, we don't have that, but we can create that now. The most logical person to start with was Nanima. Hearing firsthand what she had to say about her ancestors. She also has a lot of photos of us, the grandchildren, when we were younger, and they're all displayed really prominently throughout the house. It always kind of told me that the past was important to her. I always thought of this video as kind of like a time capsule. And it's always kind of cool to look back and see that you're actually part of this long chain of people who had very different lives than you.
But they will learn to sit down.
Love it.
Yes. Perfect. They love letters.
Do we want to give it to him now or later?
You can give a little bit now.
Yeah, kind of. Oh, that's what you guys like. You guys like the grain, huh?
And I always, this evening I'll plant all those.
The connection to the earth part comes from the fact that she loves being out in nature. She spends a lot of time in her garden. She works a lot with her hands. She keeps chickens. She's had a llama. She's had sheep. She grew up on farms. So she's got this deep connection to the land that I think nowadays a lot of us don't have. I mean, I know I spend a lot of time in front of screens, and honestly, I don't really like it. I wish I could do less of it. But the other thing is that yard work and farm work is all really hard work. It's very physical, it's very intensive, but her work ethic is something that I've always really admired and appreciated. She always gets up early, she's very disciplined, she has a flow to the way that she works. Almost like the personification of Mother Earth. Like, she works very slowly and diligently, but over time everything gets done. I think she really cares deeply about the earth. And I think she's worried with the kind of consumerist culture that has sprung up in the United States. So much gets wasted, so much gets thrown away, so much is not appreciated. A saying that she has that stuck with me was, there is no such thing as a way. Meaning when you throw something away, it doesn't go anywhere. It's still there. It's still in a landfill somewhere. It still exists. We got to figure out ways to reduce. We got to figure out ways to reuse. We can't just continue to create waste that just accumulates over time. It's got to be part of a cycle, because otherwise things like plastics, things that don't biodegrade, it just throws the whole ecosystem out of balance. I studied biology, I studied environmental economics in college, and it's hard not to see some connection between my passion for that and her influence growing up.
In India, when someone gets married, then you adopt all the ways of the man's family. When a little girl is born, people always say everything is so sad, a little girl is born. She's called Praya Dhan, someone else's wealth, because you have to marry her and send her off. So all the good virtues you teach your daughter, you have to give her away. So Praya is someone else's and Dhan is wealth. Your great-grandfather had a great vision, Papa did.
So
He said the
your
world
dad?
has changed and children have to go to school and learn English and learn the modern ways. Otherwise we'll be left behind.
And then the last thing is that she's been a very strong connection to the family. Growing up, me and my cousins were always very close. Everyone's really smart, everyone's really different, everyone's got a very strong kind of dynamic personality. And that's something that I didn't understand until I got older. Most people aren't as close as I was to my cousins. And a lot of that's because the 4 daughters that Nanima had are still very close. And she's been sort of like this cornerstone figure that everyone kind of rallies around and loves and appreciates. Another way she keeps the family connected is through food. Everything she cooks is pretty healthy for the most part. It's a lot of spices, a lot of veggies, a lot of rice. It's generally not too greasy or too salty. She cooks very traditional kind of Indian food. And I think that's just always been kind of a nice connection back to Indian culture. If I didn't have that, I think I would be very Americanized. Family can always be a little bit tricky. Not everyone's gonna have the same relationship with her as I do. I don't want this video to come across as me painting some unrealistic picture. I know there have been times where she hasn't seen eye to eye with people. I know at the end of the day, she's human. She's got her flaws. She's got her biases. And like everyone else, she is not perfect. But I do wanna say that she's always been someone that I've looked up to and respected a huge amount. We've rarely had our disagreements. I've always respected her values, her work ethic, her unconditional love, her demeanor and philosophy on life. She's always approached things with a calmness and a steadiness and a wisdom that a part of me has always tried to emulate deep down. Because no matter what headspace I was in or mood, or if I was depressed or overwhelmed, I just knew that I could call her up and she'd be a source of positivity and comfort and unconditional love. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. I'm gonna upload a longer version of mostly uncut footage of Nanima. I'll leave it unlisted, but it'll be linked in the description below. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for a long time. I never got around to editing it because I felt like I couldn't do the subject justice. I knew I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've learned from her, or some of the things that I guess I respect. Nowadays it feels like a lot of people are just making content that's kind of like fast food. It's snappy, it's catchy, it's just a quick dopamine hit. I wanted to create a piece of content that actually meant something, and something that held its value or which appreciated over time. And if you want to see more of these kinds of videos in the future, let me know. I enjoyed making this one, and hopefully it's not the last one I make about Nanima.